This is the State Farm postgame show.
All season long, the Cincinnati Bengals have set out to prove that their Super Bowl run last season was absolutely no fluke. Folks, and today they made a serious statement by running roughshod over the Bills, winning 27-10, and returned to the AFC Championship game. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the State Farm postgame show. Tonight on CBS begins with 60 Minutes Presents and the stories of real-life heroes, followed by Ghosts and a special presentation of Top Gun that's coming up tonight right here on CBS. Meanwhile, back here inside Studio 43, I'm James Brown along with Phil, Coach Nate, and Boomer.
Guys, what a game by the Bengals. I mean, they just ran roughshod all over the place in Buffalo. This is the Intuit AFC Championship game next week. It's going to be 12 degrees, Phil, out in Kansas City. The Cincinnati Bengals will be visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll be there alongside of them to witness maybe what we saw last year. I don't understand how the Bengals can be an underdog in any of these games.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because they came in on a heater. You know, they had won 8 in a row.
Yeah. They
had taken care of business. I know they had a few offensive linemen missing, but this guy right here, he's the difference maker. He's got ice in his veins. He's the unquestioned leader. They were incredibly efficient today.
Yeah.
412 yards on offense. Their offensive line just beat up the opposing defensive line of the Bills. And I can't say enough about Joe Mixon. Remember, he was the guy that first came out and said, you know what, guys? You're going to be selling tickets to a game in Atlanta?
Right.
And I love what Joe Burrow said after the game. Refunds! Everybody bought tickets to that game that was supposedly going to take place in Atlanta next week.
Yeah, and there's Mixon right there, and he was doing it all. You know, catching out the backfield, of course, but it was in between the tackles. It just seemed like big blow after big blow that really deflated that defense. And I got to give you credit, Boom. You called it, and you weren't just being a homer, picking the Cincinnati Bengals. You legit thought that they had a shot because of how they play on offense and defense. And I have to give credit to Frank Pollock, offensive line coach. With the new faces and new places on that offensive line, they were ready. They didn't just protect Joe Burrow, they also ran the ball very well. And there it is, Coach.
You look at it right there, and they won the battle in the trenches. They absolutely did. They imposed themselves, as I think as Tony Romo was talking about. They did that so in the running game, 173 yards. They did in the passing game. Joe Burrow was only pressured 8 times. And I give a lot of credit to Lou Anarumo.
Yep.
What he did in that defensive side of the ball, they were got after Josh Allen all game.
Yeah.
And you know what? He was uncomfortable, never comfortable within her. And Mike Hilton was in the second half there. And that's the one thing about Lou Anarumo. He's going to save something till the second half of games. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Mike Hilton, you didn't see him in the first half. Second half, he was all over Josh Allen. And again, this defense showed up in the red zone. And the Cincinnati Bengals, they just totally dominated this game.
Bill, when they show me, when they pick up a blitz, that'll be the first time I see it.
Yeah,
I mean, they blitzed everywhere. Yeah. Buffalo never had an answer. Got to give a lot of credit to both coaching sides of the football for Cincinnati. Offense, great game plan, Joe Burrow. Defense, you said it with Lou Anarumo. They have so many things. In football, who usually wins the game? The most physical team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any doubt?
Yeah.
If this was a boxing match, we're not going to the scorecards. This was a knockout.
That's a fact.
And it comes down to this. You talk about their, confidence and energy. I got to read a little bit. Joe Burrow says, Boomer, we were laughing.
Yes.
The championship window is always open while I'm here. I mean, come on. What quarterback talks like this and the way he acts? But you know what? He is the true, really leader of the team, the spokesman. They all gather around him. And it's just one of the many reasons why.
So what's the old expression go? It's not bragging if you can back it up.
One thing I will say about this team, they're going to have to, I think they're going to need to do it right now this year. Because some of these guys are not going to be on the team next year because of the amount of money that Joe Burrow is going to command as the starting quarterback of the Bengals. And you could just see how cool he is.
He steps right up the offensive line, and you see right there, he's always looking downfield. We talked about that before.
Picked up the blitz.
You know, in a great design right here.
Yeah.
Quick screen, nope. Here's Hayden Hurst going to get slipped right in the back.
He's been big for him, Coach Hayden Hurst.
Big time, big. And the patience of Joe Burrow, the checkdowns, the Samaje P runs, it's a Joe Mixon, and in the running game, I'm telling you, that guy right there, that stance right there by Joe Burrow, that's him.
Says it all.
That's him right there.
And I know we're talking about the offensive side of the ball, but, you know, we have mentioned this Bengals defense, they stepped up big. This makes 5 straight postseason games where Stephon Diggs didn't score a touchdown. And you have to give credit to the squad today. I mean, they locked him up. Before the game, you said, well, they better put 2 guys on him.
Yes.
And they had guys that were bracketing him or maybe even doing cover 2 safety in the corner. But Stephon Diggs was trying to make plays, and they were just swarming all over the wide receivers. At the line of scrimmage, they were physical. They make sure they bracketed.
They're throwaways.
And that's exactly what they are. And here's Stephon Diggs. You know, he's looking at his QB. I don't know what he's saying, but can't really blame Josh Allen
at all.
You got to give credit to that Bengals defense.
Yeah. I just want to give a lot of credit to the Buffalo Bills for everything that they've been through. I mean, there's been a lot of distractions. You're talking about dealing with a lot of things. And I know everybody else has to deal with it, but DeMar Hamlin was real, and that was in their locker room.
Yep.
And they've had to come in through that. And you're talking about having to move a game from Buffalo to Detroit. It's been one thing after the shooting before the season started right there in the city of Buffalo. This city of Buffalo, they've been very, very resilient. Very proud you should be of this football team, because I tell you, they represent the very best of what our country is about, because there's humility up there, there's resiliency up there, there's a commitment, there's a sense of purpose with what they do. Yes, they lost today, but I'll tell you what, it was hard not to pull for them, given all the things that they had to go through.
That's well said, Coach. And the one thing I will say now as we look forward to next week's game in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is 0-3 against the Cincinnati Bengals and Lou Anarumo. And I'll tell you, he's playing on that bad ankle next week. You take a look at these numbers. Patrick struggled a little bit. I would still say, 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions is pretty good, and 250 yards per game is pretty good.
Right.
But I think he comes into this game, obviously, going to be hurt with that bad ankle. That's his plant foot. And we were talking about this in the pregame show and what kind of impact this is going to have on him moving forward. And I think we all agree, for who he is as a player, part of his dynamism, I guess is the word I'm looking for. He ends up moving around a lot. And I think this is really going to hinder that.
And it does make you think. You see that the Bengals got to Josh Allen 8 QB hits. So they were banging him around a little bit. And with Patrick Mahomes being hobbled, is he going to be able to be himself? Because a lot of the plays that this offense makes is Patrick Mahomes stretching that pocket and extending plays with his legs.
But they're different than they were a year ago. This football team can run the football.
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon, they got more out of their backfield right now. You know what? They've played a lot of close games. And I feel like right now Patrick Mahomes can lean on it. Kadarius Toney suddenly looks like Tyreek Hill these last couple of weeks, and getting the ball in his hands. A fast guy. So this is a different team. They're young on defense. They got some young secondary guys who are growing up as the season's going on. This is not the same Kansas City team that they're going into. It's going to be a great matchup. Clearly, I think these are the best 2 teams in the AFC that we're looking at.
Well, 2 big teams, you know what I mean? So they match up well that way. Today, when I watched the game with Buffalo and Cincinnati, Cincy just looks like a bigger, they are. And Cincinnati's defensive front is big. But, too, yes, Patrick Mahomes is going to be hindered a little bit. Yeah. But, man, we got Andy Reid. And he can dial up some plays where we don't need a lot of movement from the quarterback.
Going to have to call his best game, Phil.
Well, I think he'll be up to it. He's that guy. They always they create whatever they need for that week. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how Patrick Mahomes is, how much he can move around to make those extra plays.
They talk about the narrative has been all week, Cincinnati, and they'll be giving us the chance and everything else. And I know they talked about the selling the games for the neutral site. But right now, they're on the side? Kansas City says, Cincinnati, we own you. That's right now, Andy Reid. Oh,
that's a chip on their shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, you guys think you own us. You have beaten us the last 3 times. So right now, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm going to come in here thinking, oh, yeah, we're boastful. Go ahead. Go tell me. You're gonna beat us?
I mean, if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm thinking the same thing. if the Chiefs are Roy Jones Jr., the Bengals, Antonio Tarver. And that's exactly what it is.
All right.
You know what I mean?
I will say this. Do you guys think that we're going to see the first $500 million NFL player in Joe Burrow?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Patrick Mahomes is $450, and that was done 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Well, I'm going to ask the person who will know. How much of it's guaranteed?
A lot. Okay. It's going to be a lot.
And I'm with you. Cincinnati backed it up. They still had their chip on their shoulders. And look here, they got it done today. No question about it. On the ground, Joe Mixon, 105 rushing yards and a touchdown. And after the game, it was our own Tracy Wilson catching up with Joe Mixon.
The run game got it done. Joe Burrow, always Joe Cool. What can you say about his confidence out there every game?
Hey, Joe Burrow, unbelievable. And in games like this, he always rises to the occasion, and so does our teammates. I said it earlier, under the brightest lights, we shine even brighter. So we just got to keep it going, keep on building. We're going to celebrate tonight and get ready for the AFC Championship next week.
Speaking of that AFC Championship, what are your thoughts on heading back to Kansas City to play that one for a chance to go back to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, with our team, we know who we got and we know what it is. We know the task at hand. We know how they gonna come with it, and at the same time, I know how our team gonna come with it too. So it's gonna be a great show. I guess everybody ready for the Mahomes and Burrow show, but I guarantee you, it's gonna be a dogfight out there, and I look forward to it.
Great game for you today. Congrats.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I did try to get our producer, Drew Kaliski, to take a shot at you guys. He wanted me to look like Nate's buddy. What's young Dylan? Well, I got a bad piston in this chair right now. I can't go up any higher. But with that in mind, Boomer, let's talk about the NFC.
Blame it on the piston, Jay.
All right, take a look at the NFC playoff bracket brought to you by Intuit. As you can see, you got Dallas and San Francisco getting ready to kick off over on Fox at 6:30, and the winner is going to play that team a little bit south of us, boys. That would be the Philadelphia Eagles, who last night just showed how good they really were and how healthy I think Jalen Hurts is. And that was the key thing going into that game. We all thought maybe he was about 95, 98%. It looked like he was 100% to me last night.
Yeah, they really did show the difference between a dominant team and a good team that got into the playoffs. But this matchup coming up is going to be a good one. And I'm looking at Brock Purdy. I mean, he's been playing well this postseason. They worked that offense inside out. George Kittle is right there with him on his hip, making plays for him.
And how about Dak Prescott last week? Dak Prescott last week, 4 touchdown passes, 1 rushing touchdown. You can see him right here hitting a number of different people. He had Dalton Schultz, C.D. Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Tony Pollard in the backfield. So I'm going to tell you, they came off maybe their best game. Now, yes, there's going to be a defense they're going against. It'll be better than the Tampa Bay defense, because that San Francisco defense can get after you.
Oh, yeah.
But Dak Prescott, you can see him right here. These guys are coming here, and I'll tell you what, look at the numbers right there. 5 total touchdowns, 300 yards passing. He did that last week in a playoff game. And again, you're talking about some playmakers they had. Dalton Schultz showed up big in that game, and he may have to show up big again this one, because there's got to be a little bit of a clock that goes on right now for Dak Prescott. I only got so much time to get it. Him and Tony Pollard, I can see having big games in this.
You know, if I was Mike McCarthy all week long, I'd be going, hey, Dak, you know, you were terrible last week. And, you know, just because, look, Boomer, you know, when you have bad games like at a quarterback, you're so focused and you're really in. Dak Prescott played at a different level, mentally, physically, the energy
was lights out.
Was contagious with everything. But talking about the game today, Brock Purdy, I'll be surprised if Kyle Shanahan doesn't come out and be somewhat conservative. Let your quarterback settle into the game. Don't come out and think we're going to beat him with all this stuff. No, because that Dallas defense, I don't know if it's great, but the pass rush is really good. And they got playmakers.
You know how last week we watched the Giants beat the Minnesota Vikings, and Daniel Jones had a career game up and down the field. Don't forget that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a losing record going into this playoff game last week, and it was kind of reminiscent of what I saw the Giants do to Minnesota. Like you said, Coach, this is like a completely different animal now.
I know.
The 49ers are just like the Eagles are. And Dak is under more pressure than anybody in these playoffs, and he's got to come through with a performance today that speaks to him being the long-term solution for Dallas, I believe.
Yeah, and I think you look at where he's at in this season, and there's a lot of questions since he's come back. He's, you know, all the interceptions he's thrown, but last week was one that he can build off. And, you know, Dak Prescott, he's got a little something about him, too. He's got a little bit of a leadership, a little bit of a kind of a strut about him. And I think last week he got that. And he's got some playmakers around him. Now, like I talked about, his offensive line going against that defensive line, if he can just settle that down and get into it, because they got a guy on the other side named Micah Parsons. I'll tell you what, Brock Purdy better be aware of where he's lined up, because that guy can wreck the backfield as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But speaking of playmakers, I mean, that San Francisco offense, they are loaded top to bottom. You know, Brock really doesn't have to do much. Just get the ball into the playmakers' hands, starting with George Kittle, like I said. But Deebo Samuel being back in the fold, I mean, this dude can do it all. And we talked about it. When he lines up in the backfield, this is not some wide receiver moonlighting as a running back. No. They just go old school. Hand the ball off to him, pitch it to him, and he goes downhill just like Christian McCaffrey did.
You know what I love about Deebo, though, is that when he gets the ball, he's looking to hit
Oh, he wants
somebody.
some
So that's the
contact,
attitude.
Well, he's a running back. He just happens to play wide receiver.
Right.
No, I'm serious. I think he really is a running back, and running back is just so tough to do too. So, but you know, the San Francisco offense, they have so many guys that are multiple. In other words, he goes in the backfield. Christian McCaffrey's in the backfield. He can beat you wide receiver in the slot. Kyle Juszczyk, you know, he's
Brandon Ayuk is running all around in
and
motion.
Of course, that big old tight end, George Kittle, man. But Deebo Samuel, it's like they kept him on ice all year.
Right.
Waited till the time was big. Now they're going to use him more as a running back.
You know, and Brock Purdy, he's still a rookie. I mean, so as you start getting into the playoffs.
He's not playing like it, Coach.
Yeah, I know, but we've seen it show up because I'm telling you, at some point, the rookie becomes a rookie sometimes.
Boomer said that the Bengals were cocky coming into the game. Well, guess what? They are letting off a little steam right there. It is, in fact, a jubilant locker room of Cincinnati.
Hey, it doesn't matter what the world thinks. We got a bunch of killers in this locker room, man. You don't care what they throw at you in any way, shape, or form. You just walk on the field and take care of business, and the whole world knows that now. I love you guys. Hey, we talked last night. They had the best home playoff record in the NFL. It went from 13-1 to 13-2. I love it.
Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? No!
All right, we'll come back at it. Hey, next Sunday, everything is on the line, folks, and we will see who will remain from the AFC to play for the NFL's ultimate prize. That's when the Chiefs meet the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. Our coverage begins with us and the NFL today. That's at 6 Eastern, the AFC Championship game next Sunday on CBS. Hey, look, I close out with this. You know, Nate has been just a wonderful colleague of ours.
Yes.
You know, very polite and easygoing. And you know how he closes out the season for us?
Right.
JB, the chair sinking down has nothing to do with the pitcher. It's about who's sitting in the chair, the kind of pressure I put on it. Hey, folks.
I love you, JB.
I love it nonetheless, folks. We'll see you next week on the AFC Championship game here on CBS.
Wow.